Okay, hey everyone. So today we're making a simple automata, and this goes along with the what I showed on on Twitter not too long ago. And now I don't have the working sample with me. It's kind of hard to show, but you'll see when we're done. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty easy to do. So what I started with is I use cardstock, and these are my dimensions. It's all the spaces are 5 centimeters wide and 8 centimeters long, and it's a rectangular prism with it's missing 2 of the sides, and I usually can get 2 of these out of one piece of paper, and sometimes I'll make the net for the students, and sometimes they'll have to draw them themselves depending on the age group. So now what I sometimes do with this is, and I use a ruler, I'll actually go along the edges with my ruler along the lines, sorry, and do a bit of a score. And I just find that it's just easier to fold when you do that. It's a little crooked sometimes, but that's okay. And try to teach the kids to do this. You can use a pencil as well, that works too. And when you fold it, it's a little easier to fold on the line when you do that. So here we go. And like I said, this is a rectangular prism, basically. Right, missing 2 sides. And this is the basic shape. And I'm just going to leave my numbers on the outside so it's easier to see. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put a skewer in the bottom, okay, and we do this. I do this in a bit of a different order for the students, just so they can see how things work. So the way we're doing this is you're poking a hole, and I don't measure this. You're poking a hole in both sides, okay, the long sides, and you're poking it not so much in the center, but just a little farther down from the center. And the idea is that when this wheel goes on, you want to make sure that there's enough room from the top, and you want to make sure that it's not outside of the bottom. Okay, so it gets stuck on the bottom. You want to leave it a little farther up. So I just go halfway and then down maybe a centimeter. Okay, and then you try to make it even on the other side. Right, and I try to make it also kind of in the middle as well. And I'll poke one on the other side as well. And if it's a little uneven, that's okay, because it still works. So the reason, now we use these large push pins in Hawk's Makerspace because they're a perfect size for skewers, and they're great for smaller hands to handle as well for poking holes in cardboard and cardstock. So now what we do is we take our skewer and we just make sure that it's going through. Okay, kind of like this. And I do this first just to make sure that they have their holes kind of in the right spot. So that's pretty even. Okay, because this is going to turn. It's going to spin. And next what we do is we do this all at the same time. We take our circles, and these are approximately 4 centimeters round, and we use a circle maker, which I believe is 1.5 inch circle maker. Yes, it is. And we usually punch a whole bunch of these out at once out of just some heavier cardstock, so we always have a handful of these circles available for people to use. So what you do now is you poke a hole in approximately the center of this one, and while you're at it, you may as well poke a hole in the center of the other one too, because we're going to need the same thing done there. Okay, without poking your finger at the same time. Now what you're going to do is take your skewer out again, and I know it seems kind of unusual to do this, but I try to just make sure that they can poke the skewer through and it's kind of even. That's why I do it first. So now what we do is take your wheel, and you're going to put your wheel on your skewer. So poke it in one side first, and then I put it through the wheel like this, right? And the idea is to try not to bend it too much, right? And get it through here, because you don't want to make the hole too big, because eventually what will happen is it won't turn as well. Okay, and then what you'll have to do is you have to put some tape on the wheel and the skewer to make sure that the wheel does turn. So mine's actually rubbing a little bit against the back. I don't know if you can see that or not. No, it's kind of hard to see. It is rubbing a little bit against the back. So my hole is off a little bit, but I think I'm going to just keep it like that. I may end up having to take it off and trim it a little bit, but it should work okay. So now I have this, which is good, and I'm going to put it in the middle, because eventually what will happen is we may have to move your skewer over to one side or the other, depending on the top piece that you put in. And you'll notice that we haven't closed this up yet. Okay, it's just much easier to work with when it's open like this. So now what we're going to do in the top part is, and you can do this or the students can do this, there's two ways of doing it. One is to poke a hole in the top, kind of in the middle, about right there. Okay, and you can use a pencil to make the hole big enough, because you're going to put a piece of straw in. Okay, or another way to do that, which is what we do, we have hole punches, and we just go in and make a hole, and you'll notice that the hole punch does not go in all the way, which is okay as well, and we just punch a hole in it. So the hole doesn't quite go in all the way, it's closer to the front, and that's fine. Okay, and then we're going to need a piece of straw that is basically a quarter of this. So there's a half, and there's about a quarter. So let's do that, and we'll use paper straws now. I'm just making sure that it's nice and round and open, because this is going to go like this, and we want to make sure it flows nice and freely. Then you're taking your straw and you're putting it through the hole, because your skewer is going to go through the straw. And I'm not putting it in very far. That's as far as I want to go. That's it. Just maybe a centimeter in. And what you can do as well is you can put a few pieces of tape around here. You can put some white glue in there. You can try to put just a little bit of hot glue if you want as well on this, just to hold it still, but for our purposes I'm not going to do that. So now what you want to do, and you have an option of either putting your skewer through and then putting your wheel on, or closing this up and then putting it through. I'm going to put it through now, just because it's easier to work with. For me it's easier to work with, but for the kids it might be easier to close the box up first and then have them do this, right? Because you can always take this piece out and then put this one in. Okay, so I'm going to just do this, and now I'm going to close my box up. Okay, I'm going to go like this, put one piece here. And again, it doesn't have to be totally secure, but enough to get it going. And there's one side, and there is the other side. And that's pretty good. And then what will happen is, and it is somewhat turning, it's kind of hard to see when you turn it on a slant, but it is working very nicely. See how it's turning? Spinning that around, and I'm going to try to turn it all the way, and there we go, because really it's gravity that holds this down, right? And then when you put something on here to make it look like it's spinning, then it actually does spin very, very well. Okay, and when you turn it, this one turns this one around, and it spins very nicely. And what you can do here is Now this one is just coincidence that it's like this, but you can actually make your wheel a little offset so that this part will act, this will act as a cam, and this will be a fall where it might go up and down, right? So not just, it won't just spin, but it'll also go up and down as well, and you know, as a forced up and down movement, which kind of this is doing right now, although I didn't mean to do that. Okay, and this is it. This is a simple automata. This is how we do it in Hawk's Makerspace. So hope you enjoy it.